history. The African continent has been pillaged and plundered of its resources, both natural and human. For centuries, Africans have been bound and shipped off to serve as slaves in the households of the world's richest. Today, Africans still flock to the Western world. Now, however, it is to serve as doctors, engineers, and other skilled professionals. In the bustling district of Manangi in Malawi, Dr. Iala finds the sole responsibility of hundreds of critically ill patients on his shoulders. He has been the only doctor in the district's hospital for the last 6 months and is the only bone specialist in Malawi. He finds staff and patients clamoring for his attention as he is forced to do everything. Moreover, Dr. Iala doesn't speak the local dialect, as he's from neighboring Uganda. This United Nations volunteer is doing everything in his power to help aid the doctor crisis that has brought Malawi to its knees. In Malawi, there is one doctor for every 50,000 patients, and similar statistics are true throughout the African region. Ghana has a total of 2,000 doctors, one for every 11,000 inhabitants, and Lesotho's doctor-patient ratio sits at 1:10,000. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in stark contrast to the comfortable doctor-patient ratio of the United States of America, 1:400. Today, I'm going to be delving into a problem that has plunged the African continent further into despair and poverty, namely the brain drain of medical professionals from the African continent. Without further ado, let me define this term, brain drain. What does it mean? Simply put, a brain drain is the migration of skilled or educated persons from one country or economic region to another, usually for better working conditions or better pay. Of all the continents that have been affected by this brain drain, none have been as affected as Africa. In the 80s, Ethiopia lost up to 75% of its skilled labor. And this is true for many other countries in the region. But of all Africa's sectors, none have been as paralyzed as the vital sector of health. And it's this sector that I shall be focusing my speech on today. This sector that helps Africa's millions of poor and downtrodden. This sector that I one day hope to be part of, that I will be focusing today. So now that we know exactly what the brain drain is, let's move on to what causes it. Now, the reasons people choose to leave vary. For the most part, people choose to escape their socio-economic environment. They leave the developing world with its hosts of political instability, economic instability, poor living conditions, lack of opportunities, and they seek a better life for themselves and their families in the developed world that boasts better living conditions, political stability. Ladies and gentlemen, these almost seem natural, but what it doesn't take into account is the increasingly pervasive influence of globalization on skills migration. You see, we live in a new age in which countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America have been criticized for actively poaching Africa's most talented. And why is this? It's because these countries offer a better life and because the global market provides a better opportunity for individuals to leave the developed world and seek a better lives for themselves. So now that we have a better understanding of exactly what causes it, the question then is, what effect does this human capital flight have on our society? What effect does it have on the people of Africa? The true story of Dr. Iyala is echoed throughout the continent. For many Africans, walking several hundreds of kilometers to the nearest clinic or hospital is a way of life. This is particularly dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, in a region that is plagued by HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, because there isn't any effective healthcare. We've got many of the region's hospitals, such as the Red Cross Children's Hospital in Cape Town, that is surviving completely on the knowledge of nurses. And this hospital in Cape Town is probably going to have to close its emergency admissions because of this extreme doctor shortage. Ladies and gentlemen, moreover, we see that the brain drain has some sort of effect on a country's economy. Intuitively, it's got a variety of different effects. One such effect is this idea of decreasing a nation's ability to act as a knowledge society and thus compete effectively on a global economy. We see a lack of investment in terms of everything people have invested in the education and skilling of these migrants is lost. And the country is unable to continue to act as effectively on a global scale as it once did. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it brings me to the conclusion that we must, for the staggered development of the world and for the balance of power, we must find ways to curb the brain drain. Today, I'm going to be presenting you a four-pronged solution as to how we can go about addressing this problem. The first prong, ladies and gentlemen, is that Africa needs to hold on to its graduates. Africa needs to find ways to do this, and there are multiple ways it can. First and foremost, Africa can incentivize study within the continent through some sort of bursary system. And Malawi has been particularly good with this. The university in Blantyre had its greatest number of graduates, 38 from the medical school last year, and another 60 are expected to graduate this year. Most of these doctors are choosing to remain within the continent because of the specialist training being offered and the financial assistance being offered by this medical school. Another way Africa can hold on to its graduates is through some sort of free doctor placement program. And this helped Canada take its brain drain and convert it effectively into a brain gain. And yet another way Africa can hold on to its graduates, ladies and gentlemen, is through programs that incentivize Africans remaining and working in the continent on international projects. The Global Scholars Health Program that's working in Uganda at present, as well as Harvard-related physicians that are working across the continent, are particularly helpful in this regard. We've got them working in Botswana's capital of Gaborone, and at the Nelson Mandela Medical School, helping these countries get a better handle on their HIV/AIDS pandemics and tuberculosis pandemics. The second problem then, ladies and gentlemen, is that Africa needs to seek the assistance of the developed world. And how does Africa go about doing this? Well, the developed world needs to realize that it has some sort of obligation to the African continent, post-colonialism. How can the developed world help? Well, we see this through a decreasing in the working visas that are issued. We can see this through a declaration to reduce the active doctor poaching that many of the developed world countries participate in, as well as through the assistance in terms of financial aid. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, we need to see some sort of help being given to Africa in terms of Africa setting tangible goals for itself. It's only when the African continent begins to address its own problems, and when Africa is able to set tangible developmental goals for itself, that it will be able to effectively deal with its problems and call back Africa's most talented from other parts of the world to its shores. This can be done through building a sense of hope and security within the continent, ladies and gentlemen, through policies that actively fight crime, address economic stability, and address political stability. The fourth prong, ladies and gentlemen, is then for Africa to sort out its issues, and how are we going to go about, and this is how I've shown you we're going to deal with this. So what must Africa do? Africa needs to hold on to its graduates, call back its expatriates. It needs to seek the assistance of the developed world, and lastly, Africa needs to set tangible developmental goals for itself. In the words of the former African president, or former South African president, Thabo Mbeki, in our world in which the new generation and its application to change the human condition is the driving force that moves Africa further away from barbarism, do we not have need to call back Africa's most talented from their places to join those within our shores? Like the former African president, I look forward to a day when we can call back Africa's talented from New York and Sydney, from London and Brisbane, to join those who remain within Africa. Because when we do this, ladies and gentlemen, we go a long way to helping and addressing Africa's challenges. And we go a long way to opening Africa's doors to the world and elevating Africa's place in modern society. Thank you.